The body in the snow. The wind howled across the frozen hills. Snow blew in thick waves, covering everything in white. A man named Jack walked slowly through the storm, carrying firewood back to his small cabin. His face was red from the cold, and each breath came out like fog. As he reached the edge of the woods, he stopped. Something dark was lying in the snow just a few meters away from his path. At first, Jack thought it was an animal. But as he moved closer, he saw long silver hair, thin blue limbs, and two glowing eyes barely open. It was a woman. No, not human. She was an alien. Her skin was pale blue, and her clothes were torn and frozen to her body. She wasn't moving, except for the slow rise and fall of her chest. Her lips were turning purple. Jack dropped the wood and rushed to her. "Hey, can you hear me?" he said loudly, brushing snow off her face. She didn't respond. He didn't know what species she was, but one thing was clear: she was dying. Without thinking twice, Jack picked her up. She was lighter than she looked. Her body was cold. Too cold. He carried her through the snow, back to his cabin. Inside, he placed her near the fireplace, wrapped her in thick blankets, and lit extra logs to make the room hotter. She shivered but didn't wake up. Jack didn't know what else to do. He boiled some water and carefully dripped it on her cracked lips. Then he took one of his old shirts and wrapped it around her arms and chest. She looked peaceful, but also fragile. As hours passed, Jack stayed by her side. He checked her breathing again and again. The fire crackled. The storm outside grew worse, then finally she moved. Her fingers twitched, her lips parted. Her eyes slowly opened, glowing faintly in the dim firelight. Jack leaned in. "Hey, you're safe. You're inside now." She stared at him, confused. Her breathing sped up. She sat up suddenly, backing away like a scared animal. Her hands went to her neck like she expected something to choke her. "It's okay." Jack raised both hands, showing he meant no harm. "You were outside in the snow. I found you. I brought you here." She didn't understand his words, but she could feel his voice. Calm, kind, no threat. She relaxed slightly but kept her distance. Jack grabbed a bowl and gently offered her some warm broth. "Here, food." She looked at the bowl, then at him. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took it. Her hands were shaking. She sipped once, then drank faster, almost like she hadn't eaten in days. Jack watched quietly. After the bowl was empty, she held it close like she was scared he'd take it away. Her eyes never left him. "What happened to you?" Jack asked softly. She didn't answer. She couldn't, but a single tear rolled down her cheek. Jack sighed. "You don't have to tell me. You're safe now. I'll figure out the rest." That night, she slept on the floor near the fire, wrapped in layers of blankets. Jack slept, on the couch watching over her like a silent guard. He didn't even know her name. He didn't know why she was out there in the storm, all alone, half dead. But something inside told him this was just the beginning. Because the way she looked at him, that fear, that hunger, that pain, was not just from cold. It was from something far, far worse. The storm had passed. Outside, the world was covered in thick snow. White hills stretched out under the gray sky. But inside the cabin, there was warmth and silence. Until the scream. Jack jumped up from the couch, heart pounding. The alien woman he had saved was thrashing in her sleep, tangled in the blankets. Her eyes flew open, glowing brighter than before. She screamed again, loud, broken, full of fear. "Hey, hey." Jack rushed to her side. "It's okay, you're safe, you're not outside anymore." But she didn't hear him. Her body shook, her breath came in gasps. She looked around like she was trapped, her hands clawing at the air, searching for something or someone. Then her voice came out in her alien language, fast, sharp, and full of panic. Jack didn't understand the words, but he understood the feeling. Terror. She backed into the corner, eyes wide, body trembling. She pointed at him, afraid. like he was one of them. Jack stepped back and slowly sat down. He showed her his empty hands again. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. "I helped you. You were out there in the snow." Her breathing slowed just a little. Jack reached for the bowl of soup he had saved from last night. He placed it in front of her and pushed it gently toward her. She looked at it, then at him. Slowly, with shaking fingers, she picked it up. But this time she didn't drink fast. She kept watching him as she took small sips. Jack stayed quiet. After a few minutes, she stopped drinking and looked around the cabin. Her eyes rested on the window and she froze. Jack turned to look. Outside, the snow was calm. No one was there. But to her, the shadows beyond the glass seemed to hold danger. "Are you running from someone?" Jack asked. She looked at him. Her lips parted. A single word came out. "Hunters." It was the first English word she had spoken. Her voice was soft and rough, like it hurt her to speak. Jack leaned forward. "Hunters? Who?" She touched her chest and said something in her own language. Then she made a motion, 2 fingers walking, then falling like someone being chased. Jack's stomach turned. "They were chasing you in the storm?" She nodded. Jack stood and walked to the window. He pulled the curtain shut. "You're safe here, I promise." She flinched as the curtain moved but relaxed once it was closed. Her body sagged, tired and scared. Later that day, Jack gave her more food and a warmer coat. She still didn't speak much, but she watched him closely. She followed his every movement with her eyes as if trying to decide if he could be trusted. When he opened the door to go get more firewood, she gasped. "No," she cried. He paused. "I'll be quick, just outside." She shook her head. "Cold. They watch in cold." That one sentence told Jack everything. Whoever had hunted her, they used the snow. They were out there, maybe still searching. Jack stepped back inside and bolted the door. She gave a small nod, then curled up near the fire again, pulling her coat tighter. That night, as Jack sat on the floor, she surprised him by crawling closer. She didn't speak. She didn't touch him. She just lay beside him, close enough to feel the warmth of his body, and for the first time she fell asleep without screaming. Jack didn't move. He just looked at her. This strange, scared, starving alien woman who had somehow ended up in his life. He didn't know where she came from, or what she had lost. But in that moment, he knew one thing clearly. Someone wanted her gone, and he had just made himself part of her story. Jack had never seen eyes like hers. They were deep and glowing, like tiny stars in her face. But behind that glow, there was something hidden. Pain, guilt, fear. Days had passed since the night she woke up screaming. The alien woman, now warm and fed, stayed close to Jack but spoke very little. She slept near the fire, wore his extra clothes, and followed him around the cabin, but always silent, always watching. Jack had started calling her Star, a simple name because she still hadn't told him her real one. When he said it, she didn't react much, but she didn't reject it either. One afternoon, as snowflakes floated softly, outside, Jack handed her a cup of warm tea. She took it, nodding slightly. Her hands still trembled. "Do you want to talk?" he asked gently. She looked up. Her lips pressed tight. Then she shook her head. Jack smiled kindly. "It's okay. When you're ready." He stood up and returned to chopping firewood near the stove. That's when he noticed something strange. Star was staring at the wall. No, beyond it. Her face was pale. Her breathing had stopped. Jack turned quickly. "What is it?" Her hand rose slowly and pointed toward the corner of the room. There, almost hidden in the shadows, was a tiny bundle of cloth. Jack had never noticed it before. She stood and walked to it, knees shaking. Gently, she picked it up and unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a small, broken necklace. Not human. A tiny metal charm dangled at the end. shaped like a bird with wings curled around a glowing red gem. Jack watched silently. Star sat down, holding the necklace to her chest. Her lips trembled. Her eyes filled with tears. But she didn't. Kai, not yet. Jack sat beside her, careful not to touch. Is that from your family? She nodded once. Your child? He guessed, voice soft. This time her lips parted. One, she whispered. One child. Small. Soft. Gone. Jack's chest tightened. They took her, Star said, her voice like broken glass. They said I was not worth keeping. But she was, so they sold her. She looked at him with pain so deep Jack had to look away. I tried to stop them, she continued. They beat me, broke my wing, left me to die in the snow. Jack's eyes shot to her back. He had thought the scars there were old wounds, but now he understood. She used to have wings. I searched. I ran. I kept the necklace. Her favorite. Her voice cracked. Now, no home, no name, just cold. Jack reached out slowly. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You're not nothing, not anymore, you're here with me. She didn't move. Then, suddenly, she turned and wrapped her arms around him. Her body shook. The tears finally came. She cried into his chest, soft alien sobs that pierced the quiet cabin. Jack held her. Not as a hero. Not as a savior. Just as someone who couldn't bear to see her cry alone. That night, as the fire burned low, she spoke again. My name is Sailry. Jack smiled. Sailry, he repeated. It's beautiful. She smiled for the first time. Small, broken, but real. The storm was over. The skies were quiet, but something felt wrong. Jack stepped outside just after dawn. The cold bit his skin, but the air was still and clear. Snow covered everything. Thick, white, untouched. At least, it should have been untouched. His boots crunched as he walked around the side of the cabin. That's when he saw them, footprints. Not his, not Sailry's. Too big, too deep, not human. He crouched beside them, heart pounding. The tracks came from the forest. They stopped near the cabin window, then turned back. Someone, or something, had come close and watched. He looked up at the window. That was where Sailry usually sat, where she stared outside, lost in thought. She had been watched. Maybe last night. Maybe while they were both sleeping. Jack stood quickly and ran back inside. Sailry was awake, curled in her blanket, but her eyes locked onto him the moment he stepped in, and she knew. You saw them, she whispered. Jack nodded. They were here, weren't they? She looked down, her hands tightened into fists. They always come. Cold hides them. They follow silence. Who are they? She didn't answer right away. Then quietly she said, Hunters. Jack felt a chill that had nothing to do with snow. Why are they after you? He asked. Sailry touched her broken wing, hidden beneath the back of his old coat. I was born from a noble line, but I refused the war. I ran. They don't forgive. Jack sat beside her. You mean they hunt their own people? She nodded. I was marked as a traitor, but they didn't just want to punish me. They took my child. The memory made her shiver harder than the wind outside. They sell what is soft, kill what is strong. Jack clenched his jaw. That's why you were alone in the snow. Sailry looked at him, her glowing eyes full of sorrow. I tried to escape across the border. I got lost. Then the storm came. He placed a hand on hers. You're not alone anymore. But she didn't smile. She stood and walked to the window. She pulled the curtain just a bit, just enough to peek. Then she froze. They were here last night, she said. I felt it, like heat behind the cold. Jack moved beside her. How do we stop them? She turned toward him. We can't. They do not stop. They will keep coming. Until I'm gone. Or until they are. Jack was silent. He didn't have weapons. He didn't have soldiers. But he had something stronger, a reason to fight. He walked to the closet and pulled out an old rifle. It was dusty, barely used, but it worked. He loaded it slowly. Sci-Fi watched him. You would fight for me? Jack looked at her. No one should be hunted for wanting peace, and no mother should be stolen from her child. A long silence passed. Then she whispered, They'll come again. Tonight. That evening the cabin was quiet, but not peaceful. Jack sat near the window, rifle ready. Sci-Fi sat behind him, her necklace in her hand. The fire burned low. Hours passed. Nothing came. Until a snap. Branches outside. Then silence. Then a shadow moved past the window. Jack raised the rifle. Sci-Fi's breathing stopped. He counted the steps. 1, 2, 3. Then, a loud bang at the door. Jack stood fast. Sci-Fi grabbed his arm. Don't open it, she whispered. They're testing you. Bang, bang. Then silence again. Jack moved to the door, but didn't open it. He aimed the rifle and shouted, Go away, I'm armed. Silence. Then, soft laughter from outside, cruel, mocking, alien. Then, the sound of retreating steps in the snow. Jack ran to the window and looked out. He saw nothing but the tracks. They were back, and deeper than before. Morning came, but peace did not. The tracks were still outside the cabin, circling like a predator waiting for weakness. Jack followed them with his eyes, not his feet. He didn't trust the quiet. Not anymore. Inside, Sci-Fi stood near the fire, holding her necklace. She hadn't slept. Her eyes were sharp now, no longer filled with fear, only focus. They will return tonight, she said. They never give up after the first test. Jack sat by the table, checking the rifle again. Then we don't wait. We prepare. He wasn't a soldier. He had no military training. But he'd protected his family before they were gone. He'd fought off wild animals, bandits, thieves. This would be no different, except this time, the person behind him wasn't just a guest. She was something more. Jack started barricading the windows. Sci-Fi helped, handing him wooden planks, nails, and tools. She moved with grace, silent but sure. Even with one wing broken and her body still weak, she was not helpless. You fight before? Jack asked. I trained before I ran, she said. I never wanted war, but I knew it would chase me. Why didn't you fight back then? She paused. Because I had someone to protect. Her voice shook just a little. Jack didn't ask more. He knew who she meant. That night the cabin was dark. The fire was low. The rifle was loaded. And Jack waited near the door, Sci-Fi beside him, clutching a short blade Jack had given her. The forest outside was silent. Too silent. Then, a sharp whistle, not from nature. Jack stood up slowly. Sci-Fi tensed. They signal each other. Spread. Out. 3 or more. Jack moved to the back window. A shadow flickered. They're surrounding us, he whispered. Then glass shattered. A flash of metal flew through the window. A long, curved hook attached to a cord slammed into the wall. Sci-Fi jumped back. They're pulling the walls. Apart, she cried. Jack aimed and fired. The gunshot roared through the room. A scream echoed outside. But more footsteps came. Fast, heavy. The door shook violently. They're trying to get in, Jack shouted. Sci-Fi ran to the front. Hold. Them. I'll block the back. But just then, the back window burst open. A tall alien in dark armor leapt through. His skin was gray and smooth, his eyes like glowing coals. Sci-Fi didn't scream. She moved. Her blade flashed once, cutting the attacker's side. He roared and struck her hard, throwing her against the wall. Sci-Fi, Jack shouted, raising the rifle. Another hunter slammed through the door. Jack fired again. hit the attacker in the shoulder, but a third came in from the side and tackled him to the ground. The rifle skidded across the floor. Jack punched the hunter. Once. Twice. The alien struck back. Grabbing Jack's neck, he gasped, struggling. But then, a blade pierced the alien's back. It was Sci-Fi. She had blood on her face, a cut above her brow, but her eyes burned. She pulled the blade free and helped Jack up. "We run, now." But, no, time. They grabbed what they could and rushed out the back into the snow. Behind them, the cabin burned. One of the hunters had set it aflame. Jack turned once. The home he had built with his own hands, gone. Sci-Fi pulled him forward. "We survive. That's what matters now." They disappeared into the dark forest, footsteps muffled by snow. No food. No shelter. Only each other. And now, they were both being hunted. The forest was silent, except for the crunch of their footsteps in the snow. Jack's breath came hard and fast. His legs burned. Sci-Fi moved ahead of him, injured but determined, guiding them through icy trees like she had walked this land her whole life. The smoke from the burning cabin still rose behind them, black against the gray sky. Everything Jack owned, his tools, his food, his memories, was now ash. But he didn't stop running. Neither did she. When they finally stopped, it was deep in the woods, hidden by thick roots and stone. A cave, half covered in ice, offered shelter. Jack dropped to his knees, coughing. Sci-Fi turned back. Her lip was bleeding. A long gash ran along her arm. But she said nothing. She simply stood still, watching, listening. "We're not safe here long," Jack whispered. "No," she agreed, "but we rest. Then move." They built a small fire in the cave's corner. Jack took off his coat and wrapped it around Sci-Fi, even though she tried to refuse it. "You're colder," she said. "You're bleeding," he replied. "Don't argue." For a long time, neither spoke. The fire crackled softly. Sci-Fi sat across from him, eyes glowing, gently in the dark. The necklace with the red gem still hung from her neck. She touched it with trembling fingers. "I never told you," she said quietly. Jack looked up. "Told me what?" "My name. My real one. Not the one you gave me." Jack smiled a little. "Sci-Fi wasn't real?" "It is," she said. "But only part." She looked him in the eyes. "I am Sci-Fi Velith, daughter of the last matron of Kaltor." Jack's brow furrowed. "Is that—" "A royal house," she said. "A broken one. My mother died during the rebellion. I refused to lead soldiers into war. They called me a coward, a traitor. They stripped my wings. They sold my child." Her voice didn't shake this time. She had said it too many times in her head already. "I hid. I ran, for years. Until I ended up on your world." Jack didn't know what to say. He'd thought she was just another refugee, another soul lost in the galaxy's chaos. But she was more. Much more. "You're a princess," he said slowly. She shook her head. "Not anymore. Princesses wear crowns. I wear scars." Silence passed between them again. Then Jack said softly, "You still carry yourself like someone, born to protect." She looked away. "I failed the only one I had to protect." "You're alive," Jack said. "And you're still fighting. That counts." She looked back at him. In her eyes, something changed. The walls she had kept so high, they lowered. "You gave me warmth when I was dying," she whispered. "You stayed when others would have sold me." "I couldn't just let you freeze," Jack said. "No," she replied. "You didn't just save me. You saw me." Jack didn't know what to say to that, so he said the only thing that felt right. "I see you now, too." The fire glowed brighter between them. But far beyond the cave, the snow crunched again. Hunters, searching, closer every hour. Sci-Fi leaned back against the wall, clutching her necklace. "I don't want to keep running." she said. Jack stared into the flames. Then, let's stop. She blinked. What do you mean? We fight back, Jack said. Not just hide, not anymore. She stared at him. We'll die. Maybe, Jack said. But if we run forever, we die slowly anyway. Sayori closed her eyes. Then she nodded. If we fight, then I fight beside you. The sun never truly rose that day. A pale gray light filled the snowy forest, cold and quiet. But inside the hidden cave, something had changed. They weren't just running anymore. They were preparing to stand. Jack tied sharp metal scraps to sticks. He built traps from wire and broken gear. Celery used herbs and minerals from the woods to make a strange paste that glowed softly. Something from her world. Something dangerous. Their plan was simple. Draw the hunters in and fight like they had nothing to lose because they didn't. That night they waited. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Then, a whistle. Low, cruel. The same one from before. Jack raised the rifle. Celery stood beside him, her broken wing covered, her blade steady in her hand. Shadows moved through the trees. Then, crack! One of Jack's traps triggered. A hunter screamed in pain. The others rushed in. Jack fired once. Then again. Celery leapt from the rocks above, slicing through the neck of the second attacker. Her movements were fast, fierce. Nothing like the fragile woman who had once collapsed in his arms. This was someone who had survived loss, exile, and betrayal. This was someone who had nothing left to fear. The last hunter lunged at Jack, but Sayori stood between them, her blade ready. You won't touch him, she growled in her native tongue. The hunter snarled, charging forward. But this time, Jack didn't need saving. He grabbed a burning branch from the fire and slammed it into the creature's face. The alien fell back, roaring, and right into another trap. Metal snapped. Silence fell. 3 hunters, 3 bodies. The threat was over. For now. They didn't speak for a while. The fire burned low in the cave, casting shadows on the stone walls. Jack sat, breathing hard. His arm was bruised. Sayori had a deep cut across her side. But they were alive. And together. You okay? Jack asked. Sayori didn't answer. Right away. Then she moved closer and sat beside him, closer than ever before. She looked at him. Really looked at him. I came from a world of cold pride and empty power, she said. But here, with you, I felt something warm. Jack smiled, tired. Is that your way of saying thank you? She chuckled. A soft, real sound. Then her expression turned serious. I don't want to go, she whispered. Even if the galaxy forgets me, even if my people never know I survived, I don't care. Jack looked at her gently. You don't have to leave. She nodded slowly. Then I stay. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I stayed because you saw me as more than a burden. You gave me shelter, then food, then your coat. But more than that, you gave me back the feeling of being real. Jack didn't know how to respond, so he simply placed his arm around her shoulders. She didn't move away. Outside, the snow still fell, cold and endless. But inside the cave, where a broken alien noble and a lone human now sat together, warmth lived. And from that day on, wherever Jack went, she went with him. Not as a stranger, not as a survivor, but as someone who had found her place. And now, she wouldn't let him go.